All right. Hey, I want to welcome everybody to the latest episode of my series, The Strange and Unexplained Phenomena of the South Mountains of North Carolina. I am your host, content creator, investigator, researcher, lifelong outdoorsman, and aspiring author, Kaiser Revel. This is episode number 5, and it is titled, Are They Stalking Us? I've spoken of a man named Ray in several previous episodes, and that is an assumed name. I am protecting his anonymity and his privacy, as well as that of his family, his friends, and even his neighbors. Now, I'm very well acquainted with Ray, about as acquainted as I am with anybody walking this earth. And I'm intimately aware of all of the experiences that he and his family and friends and neighbors has reported. And these incidents that he reports all revolve around the mysterious cryptid type of incidents that this area is known for. Now, Ray's place is about halfway between the southern boundary of the South Mountains and the Broad River here in Cleveland County, North Carolina. He owns a sizable piece of property in sort of a pocket community. His land is on high ground, then it plunges deep to a creek bottom. And then that creek bottom, again, rises sharply to a long, high ridge. And then over that ridge, it plunges yet to another creek bottom. And in and around the area where he lives, there are several deep hollers, or hollows, as some might say. A holler is a deep draw, or like a valley, for those of you that aren't familiar. And there's the waterways, the small branches, the medium-sized creeks, and then the large creek, which is Ward's Creek, to my knowledge, the biggest creek in Cleveland County. Based on my experience, my research, and my knowledge, this is the ideal type of place for these cryptid incidents to occur. And Ray and his family, his friends, and his neighbors all have no shortage of experiences. Now, Ray reports that going back more than 10 years, he began to find in the woods, as he walked the woods, trees that were broken over. Big trees, 6 inches in diameter and greater, broken up off about 6 foot or a little higher off the ground. Now, I don't know how much you know about a green tree, but it is hard to break it. And these trees are just snapped over. I've seen them. I've seen them and photographed them, experienced them myself on many occasions in this area. And he said more and more as he walked the woods, he's a woodsman, he would suddenly be hit by this strange feeling of being watched, or this feeling of dread or fear or of wanting to panic. Then there were smells, these horrible odors. I've smelled them. It's endemic to areas known for cryptid activity. Just this horrible smell that is almost indescribable. Then there's the different sounds. We'll talk more about that later, but it was a progression going from not much of anything occurring to within a few years being nothing short of a paranormal hotspot. Now, Ray owns farm animals, and faithfully every night he goes to account for all of his animals that are in the pasture. That requires him to go out at night by himself with his spotlight and do a pasture check, as he calls it. And if there's an animal unaccounted for, he has to go find them. So that requires him often to have to go down the hill toward the dark woods. And that's a spooky place, I'm here to tell you. That's a spooky position to be in, and he has to look for those animals. And the first incident I'm going to tell you about seemed to impact Ray very, very, very deeply. But as he was at the bottom of the hill one night looking for one of his wayward animals, and he swept the area with his spotlight, suddenly it stopped. There were 2 eyes looking back at him, reflecting the light from his flashlight. Now, most of the time you'll see the green eye shine from deer and other animals. Occasionally, low to the ground, you'll see a red color from foxes, a orangish red color from cats, bobcats, mountain cats, even regular house cats. But these eyes, as he reports, were high off the ground and were a deep, deep red. And he said he was immediately hit with this horrible feeling. Just feeling emotional, all of a sudden feeling, he said, the deepest fear he had ever imagined. And he said he couldn't move. It was like he was hypnotized. Finally, he came to his senses, and he began to go back up the hill. And he reports that he got back in his house and sat down on the couch and just hung his head and cried. And that he didn't know why he did it. But he just was that emotional. And that is a commonly reported thing. And for a man like Ray, tough guy, tough outdoorsman, country boy, hillbilly. For him to say that it made him cry says a lot. Then there was the incident where, same scenario, he had to go check on a missing animal. As he descended the steep hill toward the woods, within yards of the wood line, those woods are dark. These woods around here are thick and dark, and I don't particularly care to be in them by myself, just to add that note, at night. But suddenly, a strange sounding whistle came from the woods. And he said, I could tell it was close. And again, interestingly enough, fascinatingly enough, he said he felt this feeling of fear and dread, and that it was like he couldn't move for a minute. And it was as though he snapped to. And he backed back up the hill a ways, and he did find his animal on both of these nights in question, but that he was just immediately hit with this emotional response. He says that many, many nights he stood up in his yard on high ground. He could hear walking down in the woods from different directions sometimes. A thing commonly reported, and I've spoken of this in past episodes, as though something is down there pacing. And by my estimation, there's no doubt that Ray, his family, his friends that have been there, and his neighbors, I would go as far as saying that they are being watched almost every night. If they're outside, they're being watched, and I don't think that's a stretch. But imagine that, stepping into your yard in complete darkness, surrounded by wilderness, seeing a set of red eyes, or hearing this strange whistle. But that's not all. Ray, again, same scenario, except this time it was with a cat. Oddly enough, he thought that one of his cats was heading downhill at night, and he said, I wasn't going to let that cat get in the woods because there's too many things that would want to eat it. So him, along with two of his cats, began to descend that hill in the darkness with the spotlight, and the cat got to the very, very bottom at the fence next to the woods, and he realized, getting that close, that the cat wasn't his. So he said, felt relief. His chase was over. And he was getting ready to turn around and walk back up the hill. And from the woods, within yards of him, came this guttural, deep growl, a holler, as we would say, yelling, but in a growling manner. And he said he didn't feel hypnotized, because he swooped down and grabbed those two cats, let his spotlight hang dangling from his neck, and Ray is in his 50s, and he said he ran up that hill like he was a 20-year-old again. That he felt the entire time the most intense fear imaginable, and that there was that emotional response afterwards. He, interestingly enough, reports that there's been times when he's been close to the woods or to the fields to each side of his pasture, and that it was like he was the target of this very low frequency growl, mixed with turning into sort of a wail, but it was so low frequency he could feel it in his chest, as though, according to him, he was standing next to a big bass speaker and he could feel the vibrations in his chest. And that each time, that same feeling, the feeling of dread, the feeling of fear, I've experienced that feeling being out in this area at night by myself. Although I try not to do that anymore. Being with parties on night hikes and camping, there's that unexplainable feeling that either precedes some type of an incident or occurs during some type of an incident. This is a scary place, folks, at night. It really and truly is. And to this day, of course, I stay in communication with Ray and his family, but they continue to experience these frightening things, and it's something they have to deal with every single night. Every single night that he goes outside, he never knows what he's going to hear, what he's going to smell, what he's going to see, or what's going to happen. So I appreciate all of you. We'll talk more about Ray and some of his experiences in the future. I appreciate all of you.